what's the point of overtaxing high net worth individuals to begin with?
I mean, I think there's an element. Tough.
I don't know. You asked the question.
Are you volunteering for Zoltan Mondami?
No, I mean, like,
let him cook.
I don't.
Go ahead. It's okay. No.
I'm just asking. Like, what's the premise?
I mean,
like, you think the government's not taxing high net worth individuals enough?
That you want to live ultimately in a nation with a Gini coefficient that's somewhat down to earth. That equality is ultimately somewhat good for society, and that taxes should exist as a whole, and that high earners do end up paying more of the tax base, and it's why New York and California, like, at least in some spots, are nicer places to live than Florida for the most part. Like, there's an element of you get what you pay for.
Have you been to Florida, and have you been to like LA?
A lot. There are a lot of other places in those states that are a lot nicer than. Oh, Miami's awful. Anyway, no, I mean, I think like taxes are the price you pay for society, right? Is that not like, no?
Taxation is theft, like top to bottom.
All right.
It's
bye-bye.
Oh, no, I understand. That's all right. You don't have to clap. We're trying to have some type of like, gotcha moment here. So we'll just go for it. But like, I really don't get it. I think there's a reasonable amount of taxation that can occur. Look, between state tax and federal tax, I pay 50% of what I earn, right? And so what's the argument here? Is the argument for 60% taxes? Is it for 70% taxes? Is it for an unrealized gains tax?
I don't know. Definitely not. I think it's if you're a government, you want your people to get richer, and like in some instance that does require
just give them other people's money.
No, I mean it's ideally incentivize growth. Like ideally like policies
how does
I mean, when you provide free lunch to public school children, their test output improves. When there are certain instances on the micro scale of these things working to the point where like you can throw out most of the shit, but there's some shit on a very practical level that
the argument is give your money to the government and let them distribute it to the people that need it, right? And my response is the government is a fucking terrible capital allocator. Terrible. If the government was Blackstone or the government was a cutthroat PE firm, it might be like a different story. But the government is a horrific capital allocator. Like taxation is just, what was I just watching yesterday? Oh, yeah. I don't know. Nobody knows this story probably other than me, but there was an electric vehicle company called Mullen. And at some point they had brought on this guy called Lawrence Harge to install shit in their EVs. And this guy went to Washington, D.C. to get his device that he invented, both in quotes, installed on the electric vehicles in Washington, D.C., which they use, I think, for police, fire, and parking authority. And they issued him $650,000. And this guy was like a convicted fraudster, and this local ABC affiliate did this big expose on him, and they brought his technology, in quotes, to somebody at some university that was like, this thing doesn't fucking do anything. Like this is just a box with some wires coming out of it, basically. And the point is that Washington, D.C. was ready to dole out $650,000 of taxpayer money for that, based on the premise that it was going to help, but really without doing any rigorous due diligence. So if you think that like SPAC investors are bad at doing due diligence, the government makes them look like fucking Stanley Druckenmiller. And so the idea that we're going to give government our money and they're going to be able to spend it and allocate it better than it would be used in the private sector is just wrong. And people think, oh, well, what about fucking air traffic control? What about this? What about that? What are we going to do without that? There's a privatization spot for all of those things. There will be companies. It's like the banks. Do the banks need to be subsidized by the government? No. Eventually, the good banks will prevail. The bad banks who are risky will fail. People will lose money. It's going to happen anyways.
Sometimes.
It just happens, but it just happens in different ways. Either people are going to take socialized losses, and the lower class is going to eat the big four banking dong like they did in 2008, or it'll happen in some way that's going to be less PR friendly, but banks will also fail if there's a private model. And so the idea that like taxing high net worth individuals is going to be a better idea than just allowing them to invest their capital on their own. Like, they're sharp to begin with. They earn the capital, so you have no right to take it, after that. And I feel like, we should be thinking about how to tax less and get more from what we're taxing.
Sure, I think it's a better argument for small government than no government, because I think the things that work for people's tax dollars, small towns that have parks, like they like that shit because they feel like, oh, this is my tax dollars at work. It's why people feel very much at the whim of school districts when they want to, raise a family. Like that's
100%.
And like the farther I just moved from here, having lived here my whole life, I already see more value for my tax dollars not being in New York City. And friends who have left other big urban centers have said something similar.
Where'd you move from?
Westchester, but not far. But like
Oh,
already,
cool.
it's like just, oh wow. And friends that moved from like Chicago to other suburbs and all this, and they just see like my life is cheaper. My groceries are cheaper. They don't need to sit in traffic. They don't need to like just. It's a less stressed existence in a certain way. I think it like goes back to this sort of like family rearing thing. Bitcoin.
It sounds like you're trying to convince yourself. Was it your idea to move to Westchester?
I don't know, man.
All right. Thank you.
Fuck
Nick.
me.
We got one more question over here before we move on to the next round of topics. Appreciate you, though. Westchester's beautiful.